What is going on, traders? Welcome back to the Traveling Trader. In this video, I'm going to be discussing a penny stock that we made a killing on last week, show you how I found that opportunity so that you can potentially apply that to other penny stocks that you're looking for, or stocks in general, but this specifically is going to be related to penny stocks, and whether there is still more room to grow for this. The penny stock that I'm talking about is EXPR, or Express, which is the clothing retailer. Last week was just an insane week in the trading group. American Battery Metals Corporation, we're up around 130% on that. CCIV, which I did a whole video on, is up 25% on rumors that it is merging with Lucid. I'll have a little bit more on that towards the end of the video. There's some news on that. And then probably the easiest money of 2021 was Facebook. We bought a ton of calls and leap calls as Facebook was sitting at the 200-day moving average, made between 50 and 100% on each one of those calls. Currently significantly down on an AMD trade, but I am waiting for earnings next week. It's going to be a huge earnings week. Anyway, if you get anything out of this video, leave it a big fat thumbs up. Leave it in the comment section below. Let me know if you are trading Express, EXPR, and what you think of this analysis. Without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm going to get into my analysis on EXPR, how we found this stock, and whether there is a lot more room to grow. Now, this penny stock gained 53% in one day, which was last Friday, and it ran up even more after hours. So this is up almost 100% for us. Now, the way that I found this stock, I was screening for penny stocks on Finviz. This is free, by the way. You guys can use this. It's finviz.com. But essentially, you can look up stocks by relative volume. And relative volume means you can search for stocks that are trading at a much higher volume than it currently does, than its average volume, right? So a ratio over 5 is generally very high. You can even search for a ratio over 10, but we could stick to a ratio over 5, and you can sort by the share price. So I do under $5 if you're searching for penny stocks. And here you have the list of stocks. There aren't that many that are trading with a relative volume over 5 and a price under $5. And through that search, you could see EXPR is number 11 here. But that day, which was the 14th, the day that we did this, I think it was in the top 5. So then obviously that leads me to the chart. If you're a fan of this channel, you know everything goes back to the chart. So I went back to the chart, and it was the 14th, this red candle here. And I saw that EXPR was sitting on the 200-day moving average, which is the green on my chart. And if you want an introduction to technical analysis, check out this video here. I explain everything that I'm talking about right now. So then on this day, I started browsing around for just some news or some sort of DD on EXPR. And I found this article on Seeking Alpha that on this day that we were looking to trade it, it lined up new financing, gaining an additional $140 million in financing. So I'm like, this might be a catalyst. It's sitting at the 200-day moving average. It just secured an additional $140 million in financing. If you look at its financials pre-pandemic, I mean, the revenues are pretty steady at around 2 billion, 2.1 billion consistently. So I'm like, it's not really a failing company. It's secured financing. It's obviously been battered by the pandemic. It's sitting at the 200-day moving average, and it was around like $1.26 at that time. And it is seeing a much higher than average volume. One other thing I did was I then took a look at its options activity. Now, you can use several sites for this. I like Market Chameleon. I actually pay for it because it gives you in-depth numbers into the options activity. And the 14th here, you could see the total number of bullish contracts. Usually it was, it's trading in the hundreds. And then on the 14th, likely due to that financing news, it saw 2,681 bullish contracts. So I was like, okay, I'd be an idiot not to enter this. Now, obviously, I'm not Nostradamus. It doesn't mean that it's going to go up. But these are the types of analyses that you're going to have to do if you don't just want to enter positions blindly, right? You could source from so many different wells of information. I'm looking at the stock volume. I'm looking at the options volume. I'm looking at, any potential news catalysts like the financing. I'm looking at the technicals, the fact that it's sitting at the 200-day moving average. I'm looking at its financials, right? The fact that it actually has been consistent in its revenues pre-pandemic. And I was also banking on some sort of stimulus coming in to save some of these battered down retailers, but that hasn't happened yet. So that is why I bought the stock. And we set a stop limit below the 50-day moving average. You want to give yourself a little bit of cushion, and the stock started dropping. But the position hasn't broken down, in my opinion, because it was still above the 50-day moving average, above my stop limit. So I just let it sit. And on Friday, boom, we get this influx of volume that you see here, and 53% during market hours. Like I said, almost 100% if you count post market. Now, does this thing have more room to run? In my opinion, yes. If you look at the options activity, which is how I gauge sentiment, look at January 22nd, which was Friday, the day of this candle here. If you thought that, or if I thought that 2,600 contracts on the 14th was a lot, 2,600 bullish contracts, look at how many bullish contracts there are on the 22nd. 10 times that amount, 24,000. And like I said, if you go back to the stock volume, it's still in the top 15. Actually, if you sort by volume, because it was sorted by alphabetical, but if you sort by volume, it's actually number 7. So it's in the top 10. Trading at the volume was 56.7 million. And obviously you could see up here, some of these we own. I don't own any AMC, but this might be a major short squeeze candidate. Sense, which obviously we talked about before, and then Express, and then some of these other names that you're probably familiar with if you're into penny stocks. So I do think that Express has more room to run. I think that just based off of momentum alone, we could potentially see a $3 to $5 target on Express. Now, it still remains risky. I'm not saying this is a great fundamental play. I do think that it is part of a recovery play, right? Like when retail starts kicking back in. So it's not that much of a garbage play. I mean, this is still a retailer that exists. It's still, generating billions of dollars in revenue a year. Everyone's familiar with the brand name, and it could double up as a potentially solid recovery play. Before the pandemic, it was trading in the $5 range. So I do think we can get back to the $3 to $5. Obviously, position size accordingly. This is just my analysis. We already are up 100% on this position almost. So take what you will out of this. Do your own due diligence. Position size accordingly. I'm not a financial analyst. Just going through my steps of DD and looking at some of these ancillary sources like options volume to try to gauge where the sentiment is with the stock. All right, so CCIV, which is Churchill Capital 4, again, I did a whole video on it. You see this absolutely exploded on Friday, and we bought this on the rumor that this was going to be the company that was going to take Lucid Motors public. Now, we still don't have that information. I think we might get it at some point over the weekend. Sometimes they don't like to release this stuff during the week so that it doesn't affect the markets that much. However, one of the reasons that this popped, aside from the rumors and everything that I talked about in that video, there's so much investigation going on here. Who's tied to both companies, both Churchill and Lucid. But one of the other reasons that it popped was because aside from Lucid, the other rumor was that CCIV was looking at buying DirecTV from AT&T and taking that public as a separate entity. However, some news came out on Friday that AT&T was actually going to be selling its stake, or a majority stake, to TPG, which is a private equity firm. So traders read that as, okay, so if AT&T is going to be offloading DirecTV or a stake of DirecTV to TPG, then that means it's off the table for CCIV, which then means that CCIV for sure is going to merge with Lucid. Now, obviously, this is still rumor. Nobody knows, if besides people who are involved in the company, for sure if CCIV is going to merge with Lucid. But if it happens, you can expect a QuantumScape type of run up here for this SPAC. If you look at QuantumScape, it used to be KCAC, which was a SPAC that turned into QuantumScape, and we actually hit like $135, $136 price point on QuantumScape based on EV battery hype. This is an actual EV and the only pure play that is seen as a potential competitor to Tesla in the US. So I do think that we will, if it is confirmed, we will easily see some sort of similar run up to QuantumScape where this pumps towards $100 and potentially greater. Now, aside from buying shares, we sold cash secured puts on CCIV as well. So banking on both sides of this trade. And one more thing, going back to Express, I've seen this tweet in our trading group and other places as well. People have been posting this tweet comparing GME to EXPR. Is EXPR the next GME? In my view, not really. So this guy, Will Mead, who has a pretty big following on Twitter, but he was basically comparing GME and EXPR. And he says that the criteria is the same for EXPR that it was for GME before the short squeeze. He said Express is 1.18, like GME had a share price below $5. just received $140 million in financing from hedge fund Sycamore Partners and Wells Fargo. Both GME and EXPR had backing from a hedge fund. A retail brand name that could turn around. EXPR has cash per share of $1.63 above its share price. Price to sales similar, 0.06. It's similar to GME before the big run. However, the short interest is very low. It's 13%. GME's short interest was high from last year, going back to early last year. EXPR was $10 in 2018. So he's making all these comparisons to between GME and EXPR, but the one major difference, and I think it is the defining difference here, is that the short interest is low on EXPR. Now that obviously could grow, but I think the stock would need to run up towards $5, maybe higher, for that short interest to grow. So I don't particularly think that EXPR is similar to GME now in terms of, being a short squeeze candidate, but it could be if the stock keeps running up. Like I said, I'm targeting around that $3 to $5 range. Rest in peace, Larry King. I just see this update that he died. I think he had COVID. He might have died of COVID. Anyway, rest in peace. Next week is going to be a big earnings week. I will be doing a how to trade Tesla before earnings. You guys love those videos, but I mean, look at these names here. Just 3M, Microsoft, AMD, which I'm banking on. We still have that play that we're down on. Apple, Tesla, Facebook, easiest trade of 2021. McDonald's, Visa. I think next week the market pumps higher, and then we see potentially a lull for February, maybe even a correction in February, March timeframe, and then the reopening play during the summer. Anyway, that is it for this video. If you got anything out of this video, leave it a big fat thumbs up. If I taught you anything about how to scan for penny stocks, how to look at different catalysts, potentially how to look at different news sources in order to gain as much information as possible, leave a big fat thumbs up. Leave it in the comment section below. Let me know if you're trading EXPR or what stocks you're interested in. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Oh, and if you want access to all of our trades, all of these trades that I've talked about, ABML, CCIV, EXPR, monster Facebook plays, link is in the description below. Sign up to our wonderful trading group. We have over 2,500 traders now discussing trades, entries, exits, penny stocks, options, the whole gamut. So sign up. Link is in the description below. Would love to have you. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Stay safe out there, traders. Peace.